jokes and you're insightful, but are you likable? You got jokes, you're the host, stand up. Are you likable?
Hello and welcome to Likeable, a show where we discuss stand-up comedy from an entry-level perspective. I'm your host, David Stickle, and today I am joined by Paul Oshinski. Correct? Did I say that right?
Got it. Perfect.
Ah, heck yeah, heck yeah. Um, Paul, you have I'm excited to have you on today because you have created something called the Jokebook magazine. So I'm curious to find out more about that. I think it's pretty cool. It's like a great weekly read for me. You talk about some of the trends that are going on in comedy, but also some like things that are happening in the community. And then the important part to me is the submissions that are available, to do for like festivals and stuff like that. But yeah, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm talking about comedy. I love talking about comedy. I have a full-time job, but I love doing this. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it's great to be here. For the viewers, Paul and I are zooming this because Paul is in Atlanta, Georgia, which I think is pretty neat. You initially you kind of we found each other on social media, and through the Jokebook mag, you DM'd, and it's very cool. I'm a subscriber now, which I love. How did you I guess we should just talk about like how you came up with the idea and like what your thought process was behind creating it, and all that, because I think it's a really important thing.
Yeah, of course. And it started probably, I actually formally started in September, but months ago was kind of just toying with the idea of something that kind of covers comedy better. There's a lot of coverage of like the big names, like what's Bill Burr doing, or Dave Chappelle, or Mark Normand, or Jordan Jensen's new Netflix. Like there's a ton of that. But there's not a lot of coverage of kind of the day-to-day stuff. Like there's a lot of unique comedy shows happening in Los Angeles, and there's this whole kind of wave of pop-up comedy through Don't Tell and some others. And I felt like that wasn't getting a lot of coverage. I also just love talking to people. So really any kind of unique comedy show I can find, I want to talk to people and kind of just share some of the interesting stuff that's happening in the comedy world. There is, also a ton of resources for comedians. So if you're looking for submissions for festivals, I try and list all of the deadlines and put up reminders each week for the newsletter. So really want to kind of cover, I would say, more local comedy better, but also kind of larger trends and just be a resource for other comedians.
Pretty cool. Yeah, it seems like the format wise so far, there's usually like hey, here's the big thing that's happening, so you'll talk about like what's happening on like SNL or something big event that happened in the community. And then you'll get into some other like things to like pay attention to. Like I want to say it was like October-ish. There was like you covered like VR open mics and stuff like that, VR comedy shows, which was a pretty cool read for me. I live in the middle of nowhere, upstate New York, so like I've been looking at investing in VR headsets so I can try to get to mics without having to drive 2 hours to do it. Important, you know.
Uh, that guy, by the way, his name's Rodney, and I came in with a bias that VR comedy is not a good place to be or to perform comedy, and I was blown away that this guy's built like a from scratch comedy club. He pays people to perform there. It has real kind of haptic feedback. So, I mean, this is why I kind of started the Joke Book, which is like, I did not know this existed. And this is super cool. And as you were saying, like, there's people that go to this VR comedy club because they don't have another good option. Maybe they're hours from a comedy club. He was telling me there's people that come that are in really unsafe neighborhoods and people that are disabled that like can't get to a comedy club. And I was like, this is so interesting. I didn't know this existed.
Yeah, that's yeah, it was a pretty cool thing. The I didn't know they were paying on there, so now I have to really get in gear on the VR
Yeah.
stuff. That's Yeah, did you attend one of them?
I didn't. I was telling him I don't have a VR headset. And he's like, you can get one for 80 bucks on Facebook Marketplace. So maybe I should, but I think so. Someone needs to check this out because it just sounds hilarious to me. Like if you heckle, you get kicked out and you're put in like a virtual cage for a while with this like baby shark character. Like it sounds kind of insane. So I haven't been, but I think someone should go check this out.
I think a baby shark prison sounds worse than regular prison at times. That song is cruel and unusual punishment, I think. Do you have like a journalism background? Because you went with like I had similar curiosities as you do, but I went into like the podcast sphere because I just like to talk, and I'm like this, dyslexic, so writing for me is very poor. But like you went into the newsletter magazine front, like is that your background?
Not really. I've done some writing here and there. I think yeah, I was on a college newspaper once, and I think that's most of my background. But yeah, I would say I don't have like a traditional journalism background. I've always been interested in it. I actually, out of college, tried to apply to a bunch of journalism jobs. And I think I sent my resume to 50 places and no one said anything. And in fact, people I knew in the journalism industry were like, you need to not get into this field. It's dying. So um, I would say I don't have a formal experience, but I don't know if you really need to have one. And for this, I've really wanted to just kind of follow what's interesting to me in comedy.
Heck yeah. It's I respect that a lot because like you're like, all right, they're not hiring me, so I'm just gonna do it. You know? Yeah, you built the newsletter. I mean, do you know how many subscribers you have right now?
Yeah, so we started in September, and we're at about 320 people on there. So definitely still growing, but I'm really happy with it so far. I
Yeah.
was kind of when I started in September, I was expecting to get no one. I was like, is anyone going to read this? I'm just going to be sending this out every week to like my mom. So it's cool to see people are reading it.
Hmm. Yeah, is how uh each week you come up with something, you come up with new material. Are you like just like on the internet just like finding things, or is it just like what you're actually curious about that you're looking into? Like how are you finding what you want to write about?
Yeah, I think I go through kind of, I would say, an informal process of looking on Instagram and Reddit. And if I see something interesting or someone doing something interesting or a news piece, I'll basically take a screenshot and then kind of do that throughout the week and then compile things. There's also a few different kind of, I would say, comedy type news sources. One is Joke World. There's one called Cracked. I mean, Variety and Rolling Stone, a lot of other kind of Deadline too, bigger Hollywood style, more, I'd say, formal news sources have material, but it's not kind of centralized into one place. So I'm kind of just each week looking at all these different components. And also on Instagram, I find a ton of interesting shows. And so I'll just kind of DM people to speak with them if I think it's cool.
Cool. What's like an interesting one that you found?
Gosh, well, honestly, the VR one was one of the most interesting ones. I'm trying to think. There's someone I just talked to. Maybe this is less interesting, but he does improv and stand up in this one show, which I feel like you actually don't see a lot of. And it's kind of making the case that maybe more shows should do this to kind of break up the monotony of one or the other. I not a comedian, but I interviewed a historian of like the traditional jester or fool in history, and that really blew me away because there's all these kind of perceptions we have of this character that they wear kind of the, purple hat with bells. And they're, kind of from the Renaissance era, but they're actually not. They did not wear that type of clothing. They were in all kind of corners of civilization from like the Aztecs to India and China. So that blew me away. I felt like I didn't really know that this like jester or like historical fool was across civilizations. So yeah.
That's pretty sick. Do you have you always just been like curious about like comedy things, or like is this something that like developed over time? Like or have you always just kind of like you saw a comedian on TV or like the internet and you're like, I want to know everything about this person.
Yeah, so I guess I'm about to turn 30, so I would say I wasn't fully digitally native, but one of the aspects of like growing up for me was going to Catholic school, which was I would say more rigid and a lot of like rules in thought ideology. And one of the things I would do is I would go home and I would get on YouTube and I would watch George Carlin or Bill Hicks, and these comedians like really transformed who I was and how I thought about things. And I felt like ever since that happened, I've always been a fan of comedy for, a lot of different reasons. Like at the end of the day, it's funny. It makes people laugh. It's fun to laugh. But also growing up, like for me personally, it had I would say, pretty large impact on how I see the world. So I think in some ways, I just want to kind of continue to be in that world because it's had such a big impact on me. And at the end of the day, it's fun. Like I love talking to comedians.
Yeah, it's sick. Do you have a current favorite?
Oh gosh. I think Jeffrey Asmus is someone that probably doesn't get as much attention as he should. Like I know he's selling a lot of small shows out, but I see him as someone who's like really, really top talent right now. Also from Kill Tony, Ari Matty is someone who's really broke out recently, so he's doing some really cool stuff.
Yeah, I do. I'll watch Kill Tony here and there because like sometimes when I watch that show I'm just like I just want to remember that like there is a vast difference between where you start and where you go, and that's like a good thing for me to watch for some reason. But like when Ari pops on, I'm just like heck yeah, dude. Like cuz he's always like uh I remember when he started coming on the show and he was a little bit tighter than he is now. He's starting to do a little bit more of like an act out a little bit on some of his bits. Like he's very funny. Like that's pretty cool. Yeah, I enjoy watching Kill Tony here and there. It's pretty good. Um
Yeah, it's fun to see grow, like comedians grow, especially if they're only recently discovered, but like to see someone get better over a year, even faster, it's just like really cool to see.
So since you're like in Atlanta, are there like a lot of people that like make the trek to Austin? Because it seems like when I watch the bucket polls, a lot of them are from like Atlanta or or they're like from like South Florida or like something like that, and they'll try to get to Austin to try it out. Do you have like friends that have tried it or?
Ooh, ah, I just died in your arms tonight. I must have been something. Oh, hey, didn't see you there. Um, this episode this is going great. I think a lot of I'm going to use this clip on like every episode going forward. I think because those vocals just hit, dude, fucking hit. It's like amazing how good those vocals are. This is the a different interruptible to let you know to subscribe to our Instagram at likable pod. But people tell me likable spelt wrong, and I'm not looking into it. I like it like this, because I get an A in the likable. I get an A in likability. That's what they say. Scientists have said that. And also, if you're listening to this and you're annoyed or anything like that, that's fine. I'm sorry that we're doing this. We got to plug the YouTube at David Stickle Comedy for the YouTube. I drop episodes on there every Wednesday, and you can see the video form of this. You can see my face, the guest's face, which is probably what you're actually wanting to see. Probably pretty tired of seeing my face at this point in time. I'm sorry about it. I'm ugly. Anyways, this could have been 10 seconds long, but here we are. We're doing this. It's a minute and 30 seconds right now. But yeah, check out the YouTube. Every week it drops consistently. I can control that. Sometimes Radio Free, there's like holidays or something comes up and it might be a little delayed, which is totally fine. Now, if you want to stick to the audio, totally cool. I love boosting those numbers. But yeah, if you want to check out the YouTube at David Stickle Comedy, and you could see video of us, but check out the Instagram if you can for clips. That would be great. Okay. Um, I'm just going to die in your arms tonight, I guess, if you don't subscribe.
I don't. I mean, I think first of all, people know this about Atlanta. We have a massive airport, which can be annoying to people, but it also means there's like a ton of flights out of here, and especially to Austin. You can very easily go to Austin. You can even drive. It's a little further, but I don't know if there's something like particular to Atlanta other than it's somewhat close to Austin. But there's a really great comedy scene here. I grew up here and I was not as into comedy, and I moved to Austin, and Austin has a great comedy scene. But coming back to Atlanta, I'm really surprised by all of the clubs. There's a new Helium, the Laughing Skull, of course, and there's all these other kind of smaller comedy shows and pop-ups like Don't Tell Comedy happening here. So I think Atlanta is just one of those pretty solid comedy cities. So you're going to get people to go to Kill Tony from here.
Isn't there like a good like I might be wrong. There's like a good film industry there too, isn't there?
Yeah, and that was like almost a decade ago. I think Georgia had a film tax credit, so a bunch of Hollywood ended up filming movies here, a ton of Avengers, The Walking Dead, of course. So yeah, there's a big film industry here, and actually they're opening up a new comedy club in kind of this really cool part of Atlanta called Ponce City Market. It's kind of like one of the biggest social hubs, I'd say, in Atlanta. So that's really exciting to me.
Yeah, that's sick. Are you gonna write about it when it happens?
Yeah, I want to talk to the guy. I mean, he was actually interviewed by the local newspaper in Atlanta and shared that he wants this to be set up as almost like a comedy store of Atlanta, where it's going to have a big room and a small room, and they really want to develop and produce shows and kind of cultivate talent. So a little different than like, the average dive bar comedy club. So I think that's really cool.
That is pretty cool. I'll have to get down there, check it out, you know. Yeah, I need to check out the Southern scene. I interviewed Drew Davis from the Clean Comedy Collective. And he talks about Tennessee a lot. And are you familiar with Comedian Discovery with
Yeah.
yeah, so have you spoken with Josiah before or anything like that?
I have. We have a text chain with him, and then this guy, I think his name's Alex, who started this app. Like it's a comedy app called Jester. So we have like a text thread because I feel like it's a very small world of kind of comedy news people.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you guys are doing an important role because, like, I was talking to um, Josiah a little bit via like DM, and even uh, there was like a podcast I listened to recently with Chris Gethard on, but I'm finding like as a show producer for up here, it's like it's becoming a bit of a struggle just to like get tickets out with like Meta and everything like that because Facebook kind of puts it down unless you're paying for advertisement, which makes sense business wise for them. But like Josiah's role in this is kind of like he's promoting these like YouTube specials or like specials that are just coming out that people should know about as like a one-stop shop for people to find what comedy special because of the saturation effect of it. So I think your role in this is like fantastic because you're finding like more like written stuff about it, just more information as far as like trends go, but also like I said, the submissions thing is like important because like it's important to know like how to get your name out there. I think what you guys are doing is pretty fantastic. So I'm glad you guys know each other, you know?
Yeah, he's great. And it's, first of all, I mean, the name of it, Comedian Discovery, it's like cool to discover new comics. But I think, especially now with so much stuff coming out self-published through YouTube or wherever, there's so many less gatekeepers to putting out a special or putting out just clips, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, whatever. And I think the problem has changed where now there's so much content and it's almost a matter of finding like where is the good comedy? Where are the good specials? What are the new specials? There's so much stuff on my feed. How can I kind of find or discover good comedy? And that's one of the roles I see that filling.
Yeah, it's I think it's important because like if a lot of these specials are like hitting YouTube and people are dropping so much money into the production of these things, and it sucks because if I go on YouTube right now, my algorithm is like stand-up comedy, but then it's just like the things that happened in wrestling that you never heard of, and I'm like, oh wow, and then it's just like old DBZ clips and just it's just like random things, and it's just like I sometimes don't see like you know the new half hour that somebody just put out. Like Sam Evans put out a 20-minute special, and I saw it on Josiah's page, and then I just happened to work with Sam like the next week, and he was like, "Oh, I got a new special." I was like, "Yeah, I saw that. That's pretty cool." It's just like it's cool that resources like that are available. And you're like covering stuff like that too. Like it's just the information and how we're getting it's pretty important. It's a very important role that you have.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Josiah does such a great job because unfortunately, a lot of times you'll see content from, someone's clipped or another Instagram account that you don't even know where it's based will have comedy clips and they're kind of just farming likes and follows to make a profit. And I think the unfortunate part of that is like, say you find a comedian that just made you laugh in a short clip or something on Instagram or TikTok or wherever, sometimes you can't even find out who that is. And I think that's why it's so nice to have kind of shared clips or an Instagram page where you have a special or a clip of someone. Josiah has a YouTube channel where he partners with comedians. So I think that discovery part is so important.
Mhm. When you come up with like articles and stuff, is it like are you like the sole person running this account and like and writing all these articles?
Not anymore. So when I originally started this idea, I actually posted on Reddit and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about starting this comedy newsletter. And this was months ago. And I was like, is this a good idea? Would people be into this? And one guy DM'd me on Reddit and was like, hey, if that actually happens, if you start doing this, let me know. And, a month or two later, we had a Zoom call. And his name is Dan, and he lives in Canada, and he's been kind of helping with some of the content and interviews and stuff. So it's been great to have someone else work on it. But yeah, I would say I send out the newsletters, but he kind of assists with a little bit of the other kind of background stuff. We're experimenting with some like reels and stuff, but yeah.
Reels are important just for like because you're like finding people mostly through like social media, right?
Yeah, for the most part, I found for better or for worse, the comedian um ecosystem is on Instagram. And I understand that like there's so much content and eyeballs there. Um but that's where people are. So we've tried to focus on sharing Instagram, even though I think what we like to put out is more of I would frame like a magazine, like a Sunday read at the like I would say 5-year plan for this would be to, actually publish a print magazine. I would love to be able to send people something maybe once a month that's like interesting interviews and, what's happening in the comedy world. And I know, print news is mostly dying, but at the same time, like I would just love to have like a magazine to read on a Sunday and just be away from the distractions. So we'll see if that happens, but that is one of our goals at some point.
Yeah, I honestly like I think you're kind of on a good track because I do think things are like cyclical and just like I was talking to another comedian about this too, like vinyls are coming back and I do think that print hold in your hand situation will also make a return. So I think so that's like your goal for like 5 years from now.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to do that. We've looked at the financials and it's not great, but it's possible. And I think it would depend on how many people we could get to be part of or order the magazine. But yeah, I mean, that was really the initial goal is to just kind of write a weekly newsletter and see if there's actually an appetite for a magazine down the road. Maybe that's not the case. I think TBD on that. Um, but we think that'd be cool. I mean, I feel like there's not a kind of comedy magazine. There's a lot of really funny content and like obviously the funnies in newspapers, but having like a comedy magazine would be something cool to send out.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. And you're right, nobody else is doing it. I like reading them every week just because like I feel good about reading something. Not, like I'm not just like an idiot that watches clips, you know. I'm like I don't just listen to podcasts. I read. So
Yeah, I mean that was part of the reason we started it, which is like a lot of again, like a lot of the comedy content is on Instagram, which is inherently like short video content that you kind of forget the second you finish watching it, and it doesn't always feel good to just kind of I feel like our brains just aren't meant for that. So it is in a way to like provide some sort of alternative to that and just kind of find a moment to just kind of read something and get away from the endless scrolling.
Yeah, it is nice to like and I do like that it comes like it goes to my Gmail account. So like I do like that it comes in like a separate thing because it's not like if I were reading it on Instagram, it would there would be a notification drop down, and I'd be like, "Oh, somebody just messaged me." And I'd click on that and lose, all the progress I just made sounding it out. Um, you know, that's
Yeah.
yeah, it's an important thing. Um to keep them separate. Like I do think that the paper thing is going to be a cool thing to develop. Do you ever plan on like maybe monetizing it so you can make the paper thing more possible? Like is that something you've thought about?
We've thought about it. I don't know if I have anything valuable enough to monetize at the moment, to be honest. Like, and I don't personally enjoy the subscription or paywall model.
Mhm.
That's not to say we wouldn't ever do it, but I don't think we have something of like great value enough to do that. So our preference is to just have potential like actually earlier this year we ran like not I would say barely an ad but more so like at the top of the newsletter a few times we had supported by this place called the Sketch School, which is an improv school, and they reached out and wanted to basically put their name at the top of the newsletter, and we were like yeah sure we'll totally do that. So I don't think over the long term we're not going to start having like sports betting, content ads everywhere like everyone else, but maybe some little stuff here and there.
I want to know if I should bet on the Broncos next week.
Yeah, I mean I think every other thing I see is an ad for gambling now.
It's pretty bad. It's getting to the point where I'm reluctant to watch certain games because I already feel like based off of like the percentage of money on one team, I'm like, well, the other team is gonna win, you know? And that definitely happened for the Bills game, which is so wacky.
Yeah, well, maybe that's something you could get into with the podcast. You could do like a comedy betting, like who's likely to get booked for Netflix as a joke fest, or I don't know how long will Bill Burr go on his next set.
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, wait, I should start small and do some backdoor gambling in the comedy club. I'll just be like, all right, Steve does like on average 20 minutes, the over 21 and a half. Like let's
That's probably the way to make money. But
that's the only way to make money in comedy. It's rough out there.
yeah, maybe I don't know if I'm supposed to ask questions, but I'm curious, like, what do you see with that? Because I know you talk to a lot of people, and from what I've heard, and I've seen, like a lot of the top performing comics make a ton, but like the average comedian, it's it's not very lucrative.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where there are times where I wish I lived in New York, like in the city, because I could do a lot more shows. But and then I realized that because I live up here, people pay you, which is great because there's just a lot of spots in New York that you can end up doing. And there's no expectation for cash. It's just, hey man, just come and do this spot. If you don't want to do it, well, there's like a million other comics around the corner that can do it. So there's just like kind of that. There's actually been shows that I've been on where I've paid to be on because it's like, this circumstance, like you want to be in this lineup, it's like $10 or whatever. And then on top of it, you're like, you're trying to get your friends to go, so maybe you buy their tickets. It is kind of a loss a little bit versus like producing shows upstate or just like being on lineups in different shows. They'll like everybody pays differently. There's no like uniform bar for 15 minutes or whatever, but there is like an expectation to get some kind of compensation for your time. And like when I produce a show, um, I don't think I've had a show that I've produced where I haven't paid anybody, just because like I know how much it sucks to drive an hour and a half just to do 10 minutes or 5 minutes. And, like, so you should get at least gas money back. So it's different. Like the city is nice because you get all the reps and you get to make the connections and maybe you'll bump into a bigger name and they'll help you out. But like the same thing with like comedy clubs up here. Like I'm in the Hudson Valley. I compete with just my territory as far as getting spots on the bigger shows. And that would be your opportunity to work with the bigger name if you get into the comedy club, which I've been fortunate enough to do. So like meeting David Lucas and working with David Lucas for a little bit, is cool. It didn't turn into anything, but like if I didn't work with him, I know it wouldn't turn into anything, because I just need more opportunities. And those pay, which is great. They pay a lot. So yeah, that's always good.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I've heard of that in New York where you have to pay to do certain shows,
Yeah.
which I think again it's like a trade-off of you get probably great stage time and feedback compared to maybe an open mic in a smaller city. We don't have that kind of exposure and networking with comedians. But yeah, again, like part of the like focus I'd say of this newsletter is to like be a resource to comedians. I try and share like different tips. So recently, this guy David Zucker, he covers comedy. I think he's more kind of industry focused. Shared a draft of like the I forgot what you call it. I don't know if it's a carousel, but it's just this like new comedy Instagram format that just like the still image of someone with the joke in the text. So um, I always like to share things like that can potentially help a comedian who's maybe just getting started to like have the, level of content that I think is needed to take off a bit and maybe make a name for yourself or make yourself more reputable for a festival or for shows or whatever.
Yeah, it's the carousel thing is like was like a big trend for like 3 weeks, I think, and it kind of simmered out. I would like to be on record, especially on my own podcast. I started that in June.
Wait, you started that?
I didn't actually start it, but I started doing those in June, and I didn't see anybody else doing it. But the problem is like I was getting more spots than my talent would allow. So I was like, the writing is really good, but the performance I'm getting out of this is not the best.
Yeah.
So I would just make my own carousel, and people would read the joke and they would laugh, versus me saying it and maybe they'll laugh. So my writing was better than my performance at the time.
That's so funny to me. I actually talked to someone who he actually has a history Instagram, but has like a ton of followers, and he was telling me that his most popular clicked on pieces of content on Instagram are ones with no nothing spoken, no speech, no words. It was just like the text, which I don't know. Like it seems almost counterintuitive to me. Like you're on Instagram, you want to read something, but I guess there might be something there with content. I don't know.
I don't know, like, because like sometimes I feel like the algorithm changes so much, and like sometimes it's like how long did somebody focus on this slide versus the next slide? So is it like is the phone calculating that and then feeding it to more accounts, or maybe the written stuff is just of a better quality than somebody trying to talk really fast at you, and then people are liking the readable more than the audio. I don't know. Like, 'cause that whole thing seems, I mean, the meta algorithm thing seems sketchy as heck to me, dude. You know? Um, and it just changes so much. So like that's why I never get too flustered with Instagram because it's just but you were right when you said that earlier. That is like the main means of communication for comedians is the IG because when I started comedy, I don't think I had another comedian's phone number until like 4 months in, which is weird because like I come from like a business background and it's like the phone number is the important thing.
Good, 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 good. Googly moogly, that thing is juicy. Good googly moog. Oh, hey. Call me singing another song there. This is the interruptible. How are we doing today, guys? Oh my goodness, this is episode fantastic so far with the Jokebook magazine. Paul's pretty cool. All right, this is the interruptible. I'm going to tell you about show dates. Oh my God, we've got stuff coming up. By the time this comes out, it will be almost time for the Death by Comedy show at a funeral home in Rhinebeck, New York. That is a fundraiser for the Rhinebeck Rotary. Pretty exciting there. We're trying to send kids to other countries to build huts and stuff. I'm pretty sure that's what they do, and I think the money also goes to a food pantry. If I'm remembering that correctly, but hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. 213. Gonna be back at Julian's with Corey McEnroe. His episode's coming out soon. Very excited for that one. I think we haven't recorded it yet, but it's scheduled and it should be recorded soon and thus published soon. So no promises, but hey, it'll be cool. So that's be Julian's 214. Don't Tell Comedy. I can't tell you where it is. Legitimately, almost just said the place that it was going to take place in, and that would have been bad, real bad. It's not like I can edit this. Can't do it. 220. I'm gonna be. Oh geez, that's gonna be the Sloop Joke Bomb, and we have a freaking sweet lineup for you. I'm really excited for that one. 221. Also, Joke Bomb. Buy tickets, guys. Oh my goodness, jeez. Jeez Louise. Spending money on ads now. I sold out show last time, but like, whew, boy. Well, you guys should buy tickets. I won't have to buy ads. That would be, I'd make the most money that way. How cool is that? 221, Krog, Rhinebeck. We're going to do another show. We've got an amazing headliner. It's going to be Dan Madonia. He couldn't do it last time because he was filming something with Disney Plus. Turns out it was the Daredevil series. Freaking sweet. I think he got his ass kicked by the Punisher. I'm not sure. He's not allowed to tell me. I don't know if my dad's coming back from getting milk or not, but that's irrelevant. And then on 228, there's a secret show that I can't tell you any more about. That's not Don't Tell Comedy. Other people might know what it is, but don't tell anybody. Okay, please don't. That wouldn't be cool. I'm going to start announcing stuff for March pretty soon. But yeah, if you're a producer and you want to throw me on something on an available date, please just DM me. I would love to do that. I'm shamelessly plugging my availability. And if you want to be on a show, fucking hit me up too. I love if you're a comedian, Jesus Christ, if it's, I don't want to be hearing anything from Dawn about this or fucking Stanley. Stanley, I swear to God, Stanley, if you ask me to be on a show, I'm gonna scream, dude. I'm gonna at you. I'm gonna scream at you, Stanley. Didn't even think about it. All right, cool. This has gone on way too long. Back to the show.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. And just on the algorithm, the other thing I was told by this guy with a successful history Instagram channel is that anytime you have a link, like an external link in your bio, it uh, limits your content's reach exponentially. And he was saying this is like a real problem for like an example, a comedian who has like a buy my tickets here, or here's my website apparently if you have your link in the top there, it is deprioritized in the algorithm. So Instagram really hates if people are you're directing people to get off of the app. So that's like one of the things I've learned, and I'd love to maybe interview this guy and share like some of the tips he has for content. But it is funny, Instagram is the spot for comics, but like that's what I've seen. Facebook like a little bit, but I'm like I don't know who's watching the content there. There are like larger groups though. There's like a submissions group and stuff, but really it's Instagram.
Hmm. What's crazy is that like there are no like gatekeepers anymore, but we are still subservient to this thing, you know, and it could just like choose to smile upon you one day or not, and like that's what's crazy. So like the link in bio thing kind of sucks because like I link my podcast, my website, all that kind of stuff in there. Yeah, I,
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
that's terrible. I have a pitch for you as far as like articles to write about. If you're curious, I would be curious to hear about the culture or like potentially the thought around like bringer shows. Are you familiar with bringer shows at all?
Is that where the comedian Brent wants is like needs to bring people? I maybe I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah. So like yeah, the comedians that listen to this know, so I'm sorry I'm repeating it. But the bringer show is just like, hey, you can come and do this lineup. However, you need to bring 5 people. You need to bring 10 tickets, essentially. But like my thought is like there is such a split in opinion on whether that's okay or not in the comedy community. So maybe it's worth diving into if you're looking for something. But like, because I myself, I'm torn. It's like the bigger debate is between that or the blue check mark on Instagram. But it's just like, do you do the bringer show and you get the opportunity, but you have to like demand 5 friends show up for you, you know? Or do you just say like, hey man, I'm not going to support that system and just not participate, you know? And that's like an interesting thing that a comedian has to figure out when they're trying to make it, you know?
That's a tough one. And that's where I'm like, I'd love to talk to producers and comedians because, like, the other side of that is like someone's trying to produce a good comedy show so they can pay comedians. And they're like, if we don't have the ticket sales, we can't, pay you or have a good show for you to perform and get better at. So I understand the other, arguments for it, but um, that is tough. I mean, especially like 5 people, I would struggle to get 5 people to come to a comedy show. That's not easy.
Me too. I like what's crazy is like when you're a new comic, everybody is so supportive of you. Like when I started doing comedy, my friends came to all of my first couple shows, right? And now it's just like down to one that still toughs it out, you know? But like, so it's like for the bringer shows, like the support would be there for a new comic, right? But but you're gonna get your opportunity at this bringer show when you're potentially at your worst because you're at your newest, you know? Um, so like there's that aspect too. But of the business mindset, it does make perfect sense. Like, and you do want a crowd when you perform. And they want to sell drinks, they want to sell food, like that's important too. But like, yeah, you do really want a crowd when you perform. So the bringer thing does make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And I think it is just like an interesting moment in comedy and shows right now because you're seeing a lot of alternative styles of comedy shows, like all of these pop-up shows with Don't Tell Comedy. I mean, Don't Tell Comedy is a household name now and only got started like, 6 or so years ago. And Comedy UO, which is in New York, is a similar kind of pop-up style comedy show. And I think it's just interesting to see some of the new styles beyond kind of like the traditional club. Like you have comedy shows in Cat's Deli in New York or in a scuba shop or wherever. And um, from what I've seen, that's actually a, a show that's, bringing in not only a lot of people where ticket sales and bringers might not be as needed, but also like bringing in new fans of comedy, of people that want to like have a whole I would say, night. It's not just sit down and listen to the comedian and leave. It's like, oh, we're going to this unique venue, and maybe there's kind of a pre-party, and maybe there's an after party, and it's like a whole evening. And that's I've seen a lot of kind of success of that in the comedy world right now.
Mhm. The thing about Don't Tell that I think is interesting is that like they kind of they're successful for a couple different reasons, but like just at my level, the things I notice that make a big difference when I'm trying to push a ticket for them is one, they have their own newsletter, right? So like everything goes to like their like they do a lot of driving to their website, and they get a lot, so there's like you're not really fighting the algorithm in that sense. So genius move on their part. Obviously, they built their brand very well. But the other thing is, like, a lot of their shows are like a BYOB, or you can, bring your own food too. So, like, when we're talking about like a comedy night out at like a comedy club, we're talking like $30 for a ticket. You sit down, you have a couple cocktails. All right, so now you're at like $38 in just drinks, and then, another $30 for a meal. So the whole experience is like $90 a person versus like a Don't Tell where you show up for $25 a ticket, and then if you bought a six pack at the gas station and you split it between your buddies, you're spending maybe another $15. So it's pretty good economical choice too. And I think that's why they've it's just they kind of get rid of those disqualifiers when it comes to like why not hang out with us?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's totally part of it. And when I lived in Austin, this is not a Don't Tell show, but I used to go to this storytelling event that was very locally feeling. Like these people just put on a show in their backyard where people told interesting stories. They just put the invite out. This was free, and you could just bring a blanket and bring a six pack and bring food, whatever you want. And it was very kind of community focused, but also like super easy to attend. And again, like um, from what I saw, like it was attracting people that wouldn't typically do something like this. And I think it's the same with comedy, where you get people who want to have a fun night out or something different, but maybe a comedy show feels a little daunting and, as you were saying, expensive. So I really like what's going on with this whole pop-up comedy thing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. The storytelling thing, that's like where I got my start. I was a storyteller before a comic. And so I went to one recently over the summer because I'm trying to get back into that community. I kind of stepped away a little bit. And then went to one over the summer, and it was just like that in the backyard, somebody's backyard, and everybody just kind of brought their own lawn chair, and we hung out, and there was a jar there to if you wanted to thank the host of the event, just put some money in the jar to cover the burgers they were grilling up for everybody. No cost. It was just a nice thing to do. I do think people are still seeking like some kind of community in these like trying times. And yeah, stuff like that I think is pretty important too.
Yeah, I think live comedy is probably going to thrive for a long time, because to connect back to Instagram, people just get exhausted by like the constant stream of stuff and just being on their phone. And I mean, there's a ton of research. There's a whole book called Bowling Alone about how Americans are more isolated. So doing community things like this, and comedy, I think is going to probably become more important and probably more popular. So I feel like live comedy is doing well, and that's not to say that like clubs aren't going to do well at all. I think there's like obviously a lane for that, and there's as I was saying in Atlanta, there's a comedy club that's opening. So I think it's a really cool time to be in comedy right now.
Hmm. What was interesting is like I didn't do any research into this, so I'm kind of just speaking off of secondhand knowledge. But I was talking to a booker for one of the clubs, not in my area, but around the area, and they were saying because of like organizations like Live Nation, when like a Mark Norman signs with that, like that kind of level of comic, like they only do theaters from now on. Like they don't do, they can't get into these like 300 seat clubs anymore. So like now it changes like what talent can get into clubs when they sign with these groups because now there's like this demand. So I think that's pretty interesting too. Because clubs, I mean, they're still going to put on a great experience. They still have to charge a lot of money. But it's like um, they're just like they're still getting like the bigger names. So it just might not be like the Netflix names anymore, you know? But I don't know how important Netflix is anymore.
That is super interesting. Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, there's a ton of comedy, and then also Netflix might be buying Warner Brothers, and I don't know what that means for comedy. So there's a lot up in the air at the moment. I mean, there's a ton of specials coming out on Netflix, which is cool to see. But that's interesting on Live Nation. That's something I would love to learn more about because I would say I'm not a fan of what they've done to the music industry. As someone who loves going to shows, I think some of the pricing has kind of gotten out of hand. But this is interesting. Like, I don't think that's been covered and would love to look into how Live Nation is affecting comedy clubs.
Yeah, it was like one of those things, one of those just like casual green room conversations that was like you know, like there is a theater in the same city as the comedy club, and the comedian that used to go to that comedy club all the time still loves the comedy club, but now they only are like they have a contract with like the theater because of how tickets are sold. So like we're talking like difference between like Ticketmaster and like Ticket Web, you know, and then there's like different contracts involved with that, and it's just like you know, but now the comic can only do like 500 seats or more or something like that, and you know, which is interesting because like you know it really kind of like it does do a thing of like promoting those um those comics that might not be at that level yet. They get the opportunity to try and fill you know a 300 seat room like a funny bone, right? But they don't so that people get upgraded, but like there still takes away that like club act from the bigger name unless they really work it in. So then there's just like this like change in how maybe how they'll prepare their next hour because that club time is very important for a comedian to try it out in a more intimate space before they upgrade it to theater space and then an arena space like a Shane Gillis might do. You know, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I had no idea about all this. So it'll be interesting to see how it affects like it seems like it's affecting comedians, but also like clubs because I know that Live Nation partners with specific clubs. It's like if you're not part of that, what does that look like? Does that open the door to other people? That'll be interesting.
Yeah. Do you I'm just this is not a prepared question or anything like this, just my mind just kind of went there. Do you know anything about like punchup.live or anything? Have you researched them at all?
They sound familiar, but is that a like what are they?
Punchup.live, from my very basic understanding, is like comedians will put like their tour dates and stuff on there. And I think I want to say they're probably partnered with Live Nation, but like but basically, you know, if they it's almost like um the comedian's website and their Patreon at the same time, but they don't have to have a podcast for it, if that makes sense. So like, you know, Mark Norman did I use Mark for a lot of stuff because he's just like an interesting person to follow because he tries a lot of new stuff, like as far as like business wise. Um, but like he did this thing called Page the Stage, which is like a 15-minute video that could have been on YouTube, but they put it on punchup.live and it's like $4 to buy it or to rent it. But you go onto their website and you watch him basically do a joke at the cellar for the first time, and then it gets in the car. You follow him to the next spot. He tries it at the, you know, Broadway, and then he gets in the car, tries it at Gotham, and then he goes back to the cellar, and you just follow him for, you know, a time lapse essentially. It's pretty neat.
That's cool. I haven't heard of this, and I always love learning about how comedians experiment with like getting their content out because it seems like YouTube has become the go-to spot because again, there's not a lot of gatekeepers, but there's also places like this. And I know like Louis CK was one of the first people to do this where he just built his own like audience and newsletter and way that he shares content. So it's, I mean, this is one of those things where it's like cool to see how it's evolving. On where people want to like put their content out because I don't know where the best place is, honestly. It might just depend on like who you are, what kind of comedian you are, and where you think it should go.
Yeah, I think it's like I pay attention to all this stuff because I'm just trying to figure out what the next thing is. Like Dane Cook got big off of like MySpace and early Facebook, and that's what made him like really explode. And before that, it was like the Comedy Central Presents. So then it was Dane, and then at some point, Instagram took over, and then during the pandemic, YouTube like was like the big way, so like I'm just curious like what the next thing. Matt Rife said something the other day that was like he was considering going to like a streaming situation, which I think is interesting, not something I would do, but that's interesting.
Yeah, it's really a question of like, are you able to get people to try something else or something new? Because I think there probably is a very low bar to watching a YouTube video, but going on to, punchup.live, maybe people don't know what that is, or going on a different streaming site. Like, I feel like there's an additional hurdle, but also maybe there is something there. Maybe you're making, charging people a small amount to see your show, and it's better than the YouTube algorithm, which might deprioritize and you make like, $20 on 2,000 views or something. So I'm interested to see where it all goes. And again, like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know where the best place is to put your comedy right now.
Yeah, Paul, I'm secretly pitching all these things to you just so you have to do the research. Then I read the product, you know?
I would love to learn this. So I've been taking notes, and you'll probably see some stuff like this come out
That's
over the next
exactly
few
what
months.
Yeah, the less if you could just make it look nice for me, that would be great.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to have to read more than I have to.
No promises, but yeah, I'm like, this is this is the interesting stuff. It's like you're a comedian starting off, or maybe you've been doing comedy for a while. Like, where do you put your stuff? And also, like, there's a ton of comedy. I don't know why this light's turning off. Comedy festival submissions. Like, what should I apply to? Why is it $50 to apply to a festival? Is it worth doing that? Am I going to get the money back? Is it going to be worth it? So, again, like, would want to help comedians understand a little bit about like how to get started and how to navigate things.
Yeah, it's the festival submissions are an interesting thing because there are definitely I did a few festivals last year, and without like really paying attention to it, I was just hungry to do stuff and be like, "Oh, I'm traveling to here." Like that's pretty cool, right, guys? But then like you get there and you're just like, "All right, this is like something I could have thrown together here, where I live." And then there's other festivals where it's like I'll use this example. Like I was in the Catskill Comedy Festival this year, and some of the producers for that, very big names, but they were like, but I did end up getting more opportunities from that festival because I had a strong performance, but also just because there was actually people there that watched, versus like the other festivals, it might have just been a cash grab, and that kind of sucks. But I think, you know, there being a resource for that is pretty important because like right now the only other place where I find more festivals to submit to are like well either another comedian will send me one being like, hey man, this was fun last year, I got some good feedback, or there's like a Facebook page that's just like festival submissions and whatnot, and then that one you like kind of, there's really good ones in there, but there's also some sketchy ones in there. You're like, I don't know what this is gonna be.
Yeah, I'm on that page and I'm often seeing posts that I don't think I've seen any scams. I think the moderators on there are pretty good at like getting rid of an actual scam, but there's some that I'm commenting like, when is the festival? Do you have the dates of the festival? Is there any more information than like a screenshot of the city and the year? And is there any information about like, are comedians paid? Is there, are you paying for lodging at all? Is there industry that's going to be there? How many shows you're going to get? Are you going to be, on a Tuesday at 1 p.m. and it's freezing, so no one's there? Like, I think the the advice I'd give is just like do your research. There's a ton of comedy festivals some of them are amazing and like I would say sought after comedy shows to perform in. And some are just okay, like you were saying, you could probably do it somewhere else. And a lot of them are a quote festival, but it's really just like 2 days of comedy at the same theater, but it's kind of, you know, framed that way. So you really just kind of have to like look at each one and see if it's worth applying to.
Yeah, not to crap on some of those pages, but like sometimes it'll be just like an image of like their logo, and it'll be like, I'm making one up, but it'll be like the Red Hammer Comedy Festival, and it like doesn't even tell you what city it's in. you know, like they don't say where, they don't say when. It's just like an image of the logo and be like submit. It's like, where are you, man? You know?
Exactly. It'll just be a Google form and it's like Venmo at so and so. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that immediately.
Where's the money going? Yeah. It can be sketchy. That Facebook page does provide, that one specifically does provide a pretty good source for the most part. Every once in a while you bump into like a scammy seeming one, but yeah, it's pretty solid. Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
solid. Yeah, I don't want to take up too much of your time. But dude, I do just want to say like oh wait, I want you to share this because we talked about it before the thing. Congrats on the engagement.
Yeah, thank you.
Where how you proposed?
Yes, so I moved to Atlanta 6 months ago, and me and my now fiance were living in Austin for 6 years. Most of our friends are there, so we wanted to have this big going away party. And I was like, this sounds like a good time to propose. So I thought of the idea to do a comedy roast where me and my fiance would get roasted by all of our friends before we left Austin, and I'd also write some roasts for everyone else. So we did that for a while. Then I roasted um, Rachel at that moment, and then switched to a surprise kind of honey roast, sweet little thing I said, and then proposed. So definitely high risk. I don't know if I would recommend it, but she said yes, and we're getting married soon. So the other tip I'd say is um, maybe hire a photographer that speaks a little English because I hired a photographer online who was from Russia, and I was not aware of that. And she got to the roast and had no clue. I don't know if she even had a concept of what a comedy roast was. So it was a little awkward to kind of make sure she knew what was happening at the proposal. So that's the other tip.
Was she like, horrified that like you guys are like crapping on each other?
Well, she legitimately spoke, I would say, no English. So she just didn't know what was happening. And so like one of my friends was trying to translate, like it's the proposal is coming soon. This is not the proposal. It's the opposite of a proposal. So it worked out. We had to retake some photos, but it was funny. It's a good story.
That's cool, dude. Yeah, congrats, man. Yeah, thank you for your time. I really do believe in what you're doing. I would encourage all the listeners to check out Jokebook Mag. And it's at Jokebook Magazine on Instagram?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So follow them on Instagram, but also hit the subscribe button for their newsletter. I enjoy reading it every week. I think it's important to try and read and sound it out. That's important to do. But yeah, Paul, congrats on the engagement, and like thank you for what you're doing because it really is important that people either find like valuable information or just know where to look. So like resource pages like you're creating are super important. I really do think you should do the paperback version of this.
Yes, we'll see. We need a angel investor. We need Jerry Seinfeld or someone with $1 billion to come in comedy. But if that happens, the magazine will be coming out in the month. But otherwise, TBD, it will probably be happening at some point. But thanks for having me. This was so much fun. I love talking comedy, so I enjoy being here.
Yeah, you got jokes, yeah, you're insightful.